Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another deep sky session, and I'm also at a completely new spot that I've never visited before. It's a nice open field, as you can see. We have lots of empty space around here, so perfect for deep sky. And luckily there's no wind tonight, just a tiny little breeze here and there, but nothing too crazy. It is bitterly cold already, that's the only problem. We have like 4 degrees now, and it's supposed to go to the -2 degrees at the beginning, or not the beginning, at the end of the night. And it's already getting dark, as you can see, so I really have to start setting up my deep sky gear, and I will talk about all the stuff that I'm doing tonight later on. So as you can see, I'm fully set up now. Everything is balanced, everything is cable managed. I mean, most of the cable management is already pre-done on my system here, but everything down here is done. And the only thing that's left for me to do is to start up everything, polar line. And while I'm waiting for a few more stars to appear, I will give you a quick rundown on what I'm using here. The telescope I'm using tonight is the Skywatcher S3-100 here, which is a 100mm refractor with a native focal ratio of f5.5 with 550mm. I've reduced it down with a reducer to 412mm just to have a wider field of view, which is not optimal for Galaxy season and overall for Galaxies, which I'm capturing tonight. But it gets the job done, and with my monochrome camera on the back here, I get a pretty high resolution image where I can crop in quite far and still get plenty of detail. On the back of the telescope here, I have my favorite camera of all time, which is the Moravian G3 16200 Mark II. And yeah, you can also see it up here. It's upside down, but you can still read it, I think. It's an APS-H sized monochrome CCD sensor, so right in between APS-C and full frame. And I just love this camera. It's a perfect fit for my telescope and for the field of view that I want. And it served me so well over the past few years, and I probably won't change this camera out in the next few years, I think. The mount that I'm using is just like in my last deep sky vlog, the Ioptron CM70 on the Ioptron Tribe here. It's a perfect mount for mobile use. It is just on the edge, I would say. So the CM120, the bigger brother of this mount, would be too big for mobile use, but this is just on the edge, I would say. It is lighter as an EQ6R, I believe, but can hold much more payload. This mount is rated up to 34 kilograms, I believe, or 32, and I'm currently using it with, I think this whole package up here weighs 13 kilograms, or 14 maybe. It's quite heavy with all the camera equipment here on the back and with everything that I've attached to this telescope. But everything here runs so perfectly, and I can highly recommend this mount. It's such a nice mount. So it's time to start. Let's turn on the battery so that everything gets power. The mount is on and everything, yeah, the camera is also starting. I just have to wait about 30 seconds now for the mini PC to start, and then I can just start everything. That's so nice when everything here is on the telescope already installed. I just have to connect to my mini PC, load the sequence, and then I'm basically done. The only thing that I just have to do every single time is the polar alignment step, but that's like done in 5 minutes or even quicker. I think my alignment out of the box is not that bad, but I will see. So the camera's on, and the mini PC should also be on. I really have to say, this 15% moon is already so bright. I mean, it's not bad, but I can already see the effects on the sky, and I can even see a small shadow. I think you can also see it behind me. And come on, Nina. Opening up Nina the first time on this mini PC takes so long. That's quite annoying, I have to say. But I think that's the downside of having a low-powered Windows computer. I really can't wait when Nina is getting full compatibility with Linux computers, and I think that's already happened, but it's like the starting phase now, and when the first mini computers like an Acer Air come out with a Nina install, then I will definitely switch. I'm like 90%, 99% sure of that. So now I'm here in Nina, I can just connect everything. And right away I will start cooling my camera down. I will cool it down to negative 20 degrees. That's the sweet spot for this camera. And the cooler I can get on a CCD sensor, the better. So if I would use this sensor on, let's say, 0 degrees, then I would get really bad images. Like, it's usable, but the dark current on the sensor is quite high. And also we got some problems. That's not what I wanted to say, but the flat panel doesn't seem to connect. Unplug all cables. I just heard the motor, so that's always nice, it works. Let's reload it here and connect it. Flat panel connected. And we can also open it right away. So I've just loaded up my sequence here, and you can see that I'm capturing the Coma cluster. And I can just open up the field of view here so that you can see what I'm capturing here. And that's the exact field of view that I have with my camera here. And here in the middle you can see the beautiful Coma cluster with all these galaxies in the middle. And I really can't wait to see how it turns out with this telescope. And I really have to say, with the low focal length that I have and the big camera sensor, I can zoom in quite far, I have to say. And I really don't want to lose too much time, so we'll go right into the imaging tab and start the 3-point polar alignment with binning 2x2 and 2 seconds, please. I'm already pretty close. I want to get the total error below 1 minute, so in the seconds. With this focal length I could leave it here probably and still have good results, but when I'm already at it with computer assisted polar alignment, then I can just get it perfect. You know what? I will just leave it right there, honestly. Let me just lock both screws here for the altitude adjustment so that nothing moves. And then I just have to double check if anything moved. So now I have to move down a little bit more. I would say that's quite okay. And just to double check it, in my experience at least, I will run the polar alignment process again. That's wrong. Let me just zero the mount again and start it all over. Because once you are pretty close to polar alignment, I don't know why, but in some cases it's still off. Even when the first iteration says that I'm below 1 minute now, I'm just double checking and make sure that it's really spot on, because I've had it multiple times in the past that the first iteration said like I'm below 1 minute, and then when I redid it I had like 15 minutes off. I have to say it's a really beautiful night. With this 15% moon, it's quite atmospheric already. I can see a little bit more of the landscape with my shadows behind me. It's really nice, and I'm freezing. I have to say that my hands are so cold. I really have to change clothes after the first image is in. So let's see how it looks. I would say that I'm 5 minutes off now in the second iteration. And as you can see, the good thing is I don't have to move down, I just have to move a bit more right. That's easy. Let's see if one adjustment is enough. Okay, that was too much. Okay, that's good. Let me see if I can move the mount up just a little bit, even though I have already locked the altitude adjustment screws. Oh, that's perfect. I will leave it right there. I will leave it right there, stop it. So one last thing I have to do that I completely forgot is that I have to calibrate the mount and focus my guiding camera, because I have to reinstall my guiding camera every single time. And I don't have to focus it. Oh, perfect. That is so perfect. I just have to calibrate it and I will do it on target. So let's just slew and center. The only thing I have to do before that then is an autofocus and just calibrate the auto guider, and then I'm set and ready to go. So the first exposure is running now, and we are already at 1 minute and 50 seconds. Guiding looks alright, it's not perfect, but it's more than good enough with 0.77. Maybe it's going down a little bit after it settles. And I can just show you the sequence again. So I'm shooting the Coma cluster, and as you can see here on the graph, it's pretty much at the perfect time of the year now. So we have it right at zenith and then slowly setting, and it's still above 40 degrees when the night ends, which is perfect. And when we come down here, I have a filter swap setting, I would say, or like filter cycling, that's the more accurate word. So I'm doing 3 images for luminance and then 1 image for each RGB, and then over and over again. That's just the best way, in my opinion, to capture LRGB images or just monochrome images in general, because that way you get the most out of a single night. You get each filter, and also when you're capturing the target over the full night, when it rises, goes over the zenith and then sets again, you get an even smoother gradient, especially when your target is, let's say, starting in a light polluted area and then slowly moves to a better area. Then you have less gradients to deal with afterwards. You can fix it in post, of course, but it's just better overall, in my opinion. We have 5 hours of exposure time now, and no, we have actually more. I have to set this here. That's actually good that I see it now. We have 6.5 hours of exposure time tonight. And I think that's plenty. I think I have about 8 hours already on this target, and then I would say I'm quite satisfied with it, and I don't need too much exposure time on this target. It's quite bright, and the skies that I'm under here are pretty good. So the image is almost done. We can go over here and have a look on how it looks. So as you can see here, that's just a 5-second exposure, so nothing too crazy. And in a few seconds we can see the first exposure in luminance, which is the most interesting filter for Galaxies. And the image is done. Let's download it. Oh, it's so cold. I really have to change clothes after I'm finished here. Come on, please load. And we can see satellites. And we can see the Coma cluster here in the middle. And you can already see so many galaxies. That is so nice. Ah, that's very cool. That's nice. Now I really have to change clothes because my hands are so cold. Oh my god.
The Coma cluster, also known as Abell 1556, is located about 300 million light-years away in the constellation Coma Berenices. It is one of the richest galaxy clusters in our nearby universe and contains well over 1,000 galaxies. And that's the part I find so crazy. Many of the tiny, faint smudges in the field of view are not stars. They are actually entire galaxies, each made up of billions of stars. It actually shows an enormous structure stretching across millions of light-years. The Coma cluster is also famous in science because it helped astronomers realize that there must be much more mass in the universe than we can directly see, one of the early clues that led to the idea of dark matter. One detail I find especially fascinating about the Coma cluster is gravitational lensing. In very deep images from space telescopes like Hubble, you can actually see tiny stretched arcs of lights around the cluster. These arcs are galaxies far behind the Coma cluster, but their light gets bent and distorted by the enormous mass in front of them. This is not something I could ever resolve in my own images with a normal ground-based telescope, at least not with equipment that is anywhere near realistic for most of us, but the effect is still appearing here. So for me, this target is not necessarily about bright colors and dramatic nebula structures, it's more about scale. A single image can show hundreds of distant galaxies, and that's where my small telescope and the wide field of view really shines. About half an hour after I started the first exposure, I wanted to go to sleep, and then I realized that the weather forecast was more accurate than I would have hoped for. Most of all the clouds that disappeared in the evening returned, and that meant no more clear skies for me to capture more data.
So I have to say, tonight was a total failure. I mean, you can see the Milky Way core behind me now. It is partially clear, but I mean, you've seen it in the time-lapse and in some B-roll footage that the clouds rolled back in, or they formed again, whatever. And I would say 80 to 90% of the night was cloudy, and I was constantly checking in the car and waking up like every hour to see if it's getting better, and it really wasn't. And yeah, now I'm freezing, it's cold, and I just want to get home. So I'm not sure if I can show you a good picture, and I mean, I have enough exposure to create an image, but it might not be enough to like go fully crazy and have a good edit, but you will see. So anyway, I will see you in the next Astro vlog, and I wish you good luck on your next adventure and clear skies.